Good evening. Hello, I'm Melissa Sorolla, Senior Director of Corporate Communications and Marketing at CPS Energy. Thanks for your patience as we worked out some audio issues here. Oprima estrella cero ahora para escuchar en español. Thank you for joining us this evening for this interactive town hall so we can answer your questions and listen to your comments. We know that as the weather is turning cooler, one of the big questions you have for us is if we at CPS Energy are ready for any potential freezing weather this winter, and our answer quite simply is yes. So we're connecting with you tonight so that we can share details around our winter preparedness and reassure you that your power company took the lessons learned from February seriously. If you have any question at any point tonight, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you will be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. After that, the next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call, and you will be able to ask your question directly. Joining me tonight is Rudy Garza, our interim president and CEO at CPS Energy, Frank Almaraz, our chief power, sustainability, and business development officer, and Paul Barham, our chief grid optimization and reliability officer. While Frank's area is responsible for making power, Paul's area ensures it gets to you at your home or business. Rudy, Frank, and Paul are here to share what we've done in the aftermath of last February's unprecedented storm and to listen to your feedback and answer your questions live right here during this town hall. You'll also notice that we have some helpful tips scrolling across the bottom of the screen to help you and your family get prepared for the winter season as well. For those of you who are joining us on your telephone, you can also watch a video simulcast of this event at cpsenergy.com/town hall. If you are participating on the live stream, you can enter your name and question below the streaming player. And if you're on Facebook, you can simply leave a comment. We encourage everyone who has joined to submit your questions because we do want to hear from you. As a reminder, press *3 on your phone keypad to ask a question about CPS Energy's preparation for the winter. Oprima estrella cero ahora para escuchar en español. So we know you're eager to hear the improvements we've made, so we're going to jump right in. Rudy, this is your second official day on the job as interim president and CEO. So let's start with you and your thoughts on improvements we've made and what we've accomplished to get ready for winter.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Hopefully we'll get these technical challenges worked out. I want to start off by thanking, now mine is having, I want to start off with thanking Buddy, our ASL interpreter tonight. I also want to thank Maritza, who's our Spanish interpreter, for the work that she's doing, speaking to our Spanish-speaking customers this evening. I am extremely honored to have been asked to serve in the role of interim president and CEO in representation of our 3,000 employees who serve our customers each and every day here in San Antonio. Tonight, we're here to speak to you about the things that we've learned over the last 9 months since the February Winter Storm Uri event and the work that our teams have been doing tremendously, focused and diligently to implement the things that we have learned about the improvements we can make going into this winter season. I can sit here and tell you that CPS Energy has been focused and on the job. We have been doing the things that we need to do to ensure that our system is ready for at least as harsh a winter season as we saw last year. We have spent a lot of time over the last 9 months listening to our customers, certainly listening to and receiving feedback from our owner, the city of San Antonio, stakeholders and partners, and independent consultants here in San Antonio, and really holding ourselves accountable to the job that our customers expect of us each and every day. Those assessments have come in a lot of forms. The Mayor's Committee on Emergency Preparedness has certainly been a focused effort of ours to provide them information so they can provide an assessment. And there are a number of action items that have come out and recommendations that have come out of that effort that we're spending our time focused on right now. We have also done a lot of interaction with the new Municipal Utilities Committee that's chaired by my own Councilman John Courage, and they've continued to give us very good feedback about things they expect of us going into the winter season this year. We've met with our suburban cities. We serve 31 other small cities across the city of San Antonio and the Bexar County region, that we've also spent time learning about their systems, learning about the resiliency they need for their critical infrastructure. We have held tabletop exercises, multiple tabletop exercises with not only the city of San Antonio, but with our partner SAWS. And we'll be prepared to speak to the coordination efforts that we have done with our sister utility in the San Antonio water system to ensure that a power issue, in an event like what happened in February, doesn't also become a water challenge for our community. And so we spent a lot of time with the leadership team of SAWS learning about their system and them learning about our system. And then when you look at the regulatory activity and what came out of the state legislature this year, we have, tonight we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the things that our policymakers have focused on. And that really has to do with the weatherization protocols that we have been focused on at our power plants and ensuring our power plants are running and operable this winter season, even beyond the 85% that they were operable, the last winter event. We're going to talk about, be prepared to talk about load shed and how we manage controlled outages that didn't go so well last February. We made a lot of changes to our program that we think is going to put us in a really good position to manage any potential rolling outages that come our way from ERCOT this season. We've worked real hard on a statewide outage alert and other communication opportunities that we have to ensure that our customers know what's going on. Our community is speaking with one voice as the city and the county and CPS Energy and SAWS come together in any emergency event that we might befall on our community as we move forward. And of course, we've been very involved in the market redesign activities that have been going on at ERCOT up in Austin, and how as an entire electric market in Texas, we're ensuring that reliability is at the forefront. So a lot of activity going on. I want to thank our customers that have talked to us for their feedback. And I want to thank all the policymakers, that I have talked to in particular, that our leadership team has talked to in general, as we look forward to the winter season. So I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Rudy, for that insight. For those of you that are just joining us, you are on the line with CPS Energy leaders who are talking about preparing for cold weather. If you do have a question or comment on the phone, please press *3 to be put in line to speak. The next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call. If you're online, simply enter your question in the box under the streaming player. We're going to get straight to our live callers. Our first live call is from Francine Jones, who has a question about avoiding the same power outages we experienced in February. So, Ms. Jones, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. If we're not on the national grid, how is CPS Energy going to guarantee that we don't have another disastrous outage like we did this past February? I mean, what are the steps that are being taken to avoid that?
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for your question. Paul, we'll go to you first.
Yes, and thank you for your question. I think the first thing to think about is we are not part of, and there are basically 3 grids in North America. We're the smallest and the third of those. There's one in the east and one in the west. We do have connections to the eastern grid as well as to Mexico. And so there are capabilities of importing some amount of power from the other grids. But the real activities that are going on in our utility as well as others is how we are strengthening our processes, our systems, to make sure that our plants are ready, that our systems are ready in the event we were to experience another winter storm like we did. And I think we will talk more about those details, but we, as Rudy said, feel like we are very well prepared for that situation if it were to occur.
Thanks again, Ms. Jones, for that question. And as a reminder, this is an interactive event and we want to hear your questions. If you do have a question, please press *3 to get in the queue to ask a question. So we do want to share more details on the changes that we've taken to prepare for this winter. And joining us is Frank Almaraz, who again is responsible for ensuring we have enough power to cover our local community's needs. Frank, can you talk to us about the actions our teams at the power plants are taking to get us ready for winter?
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. There's preparation that's been underway for the last 37 weeks since the weather event, and I'm going to brief you on a couple of aspects of it. The first is that, as we do after any kind of an event, we looked at what didn't go as well as we wanted to. Rudy, a few minutes ago, mentioned that we were performing at 85% during that event, but our goal is to be at 100%. So any of the 5 issues that we identified related to freeze protection, we went ahead and addressed those right away. Now, this is in addition to the $21 million that we spent between 2011 and 2021. So we've continued to, we've made those initial improvements, and we've identified a list of things that we want to improve before December the 1st. And that progress is well underway. That list includes resealing insulation where it's possible to get water intrusion into the insulation surrounding pipes that, as folks will know, when it freezes, it creates an expansion contraction issue and creates cracks and things like that. So we've resealed lines. We've enhanced our temporary enclosure plan. As we previously discussed, plants in the state of Texas in our summer heat, we're primarily focused on increasing ventilation, getting all of that hot air out, primarily for security and safety of our employees. Well, in the wintertime, we need to make sure that we retain heat. So we put space heaters and temporary enclosures up to do that. We've enhanced that plan with some lessons learned from the last event. We've also added additional space heating. So some of it's portable, some of it's permanent. And we've realized that there's a better way in some cases than using liquid fuel for these space heaters. So we've added electric space heating as well as gas space heating. And finally, we're doing assessments. Rudy mentioned a second ago that there'll be rulemakings that determine what the standards should be for plants in the state of Texas in the next 12 months, let's say. So in advance of that, we are performing an assessment that will help us understand what changes need to be made given a regulatory change that requires a certain standard. So all of that is underway. The second major category of things that we've done is our outage schedule. We are usually focused on the summer. Most people in Texas know that it's very hot in the summer, and we really reach our peaks as an ERCOT grid at that time. Winter Storm Uri proved that we can reach peaks that rival or exceed, in some cases, the consumption of our very hottest summer day in the winter as well. And what we've done now is take our outages outside of the January and February timeframe. These plants are big, complicated machines, and they have to come down from time to time, and we have to perform maintenance on them. So rather than perform that maintenance over a period of time like January, we're in advance of getting ready for the summer period. We are making sure that there are no planned maintenance outages in January and February. Next, with respect to fuel supply, we've added additional storage of natural gas, and we've changed the composition of that storage. So we were able to get approximately 25% more withdrawals of our storage now than we were last year. We've also added some purchases of physical gas that we buy at the beginning of the month, each month, and that will be there for us as an additional supply. And finally, we've added some price protection that will allow us to protect our customers in the event that prices were to get really, really high once again. And I do want to note, we continue to fight the outrageous, extremely high prices, in some cases we believe illegal prices that we saw for natural gas in the state of Texas during Winter Storm Uri. And we're going to take that fight as far as it will go, and we believe we have a very compelling argument. But before the courts settle that point, or before there's a regulatory action taken to prevent people from pricing natural gas as high as we saw during Uri, we are taking substantial action to really increase the amount of price protection until those standards are set and we can reassess what needs to be done. All that said, we have taken substantial actions, and I believe we are far better prepared for whatever sort of weather that we're going to see this winter. And if we were to see Uri once again, we will be on much firmer footing this winter. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing those details, Frank. And as a reminder, if you're on the line and you need bill assistance or have any other customer service related needs, our dedicated energy advisors on standby to assist you at 210-353-2222. Again, that's 210-353-2222. And we do want to hear from you tonight. So if you're on the phone, press *3 to get into the queue. We are going to go to an online question next. Irvinel Walters has asked, in the event of rolling blackouts, will you consider shutting off power to large retail centers instead of apartment complexes? So Paul, we'll go to you again to discuss that process.
So yes, it's a good point, and absolutely, we have minimized the loads or the customers that are exempted from load shed to spread that activity out over a broader set of customers, which decreases the impact on any one customer. And as part of that, really, there are just a very few categories of loads that are kind of exempted from load shed, or the last that would be considered for load shed. Those are things that you could probably very well guess as things that are critical to such an emergency period. And there are things like hospitals, the 911 centers, call centers, the city's emergency operations center. We have some natural gas processing facilities in our service territory that are also exempt from that. And of course, there's some key parts of some of the military bases that, in being able to fulfill their mission that are kind of exempted from that list or at the very end of that list. So things like a shopping center and keeping a shopping center on through the load shed event and not taking them into the outage is not something we would do. Those would not be exempted from that activity. And again, as I said earlier, the real goal and the significant improvement that we've pursued in our load shed is around creating more capacity and spreading that activity out over a broader set of circuits so that the impact to any one customer is lowered.
Paul,
Thanks,
I'll just
Paul.
add, Melissa, I just want to add, we have been doing a lot of outreach for our largest customers across the community to really focus on conservation as a strategy for, maintaining reliability for those most critical in our community. That conservation action network, we've got a lot of customers who actually have their own generation that can turn it on in an emergency like we experienced in February. A number of customers in our service territory actually did that, which we believe helped get us out of the reliability crisis that we were in sooner. And so we're working with our customers to make sure that they're aware when we get in those situations, they can take action on their own to help lessen the burden on the grid so that, we can try to stabilize the situation and maintain reliability. So there are a lot of things that we're working on, even outside of the things that Paul and Frank have been talking about that we have to do to manage our own system on the customer side. And even for areas like downtown, a lot of folks, ask questions about why is downtown, not turned off. We've got so much redundancy. There are multiple kind of, systems downtown that we have to keep on just because of the complexity. But that doesn't prevent us from talking to office buildings, talking to, the owners of parking garages downtown and asking them to voluntarily turn their lights off to create some, opportunity to stabilize the grid. So we are leaving no stone unturned as we proceed ahead to make sure that not only are we doing the things we need to do to create some equity across the community for those who have to experience a controlled outage situation, but really to ask those who can do something to help the situation to take action as well. So we're really focused on those action, enabling action by our customers to try to contribute to the greater good.
Thanks, Rudy. We're going to go to another live caller. We have Lori Samuels on the phone. Lori, you are now live with CPS Energy.
I asked about the water pumping system at SAWS, whether or not they were going to be on some type of generator or battery backup so that we wouldn't have an issue with water being pumped to people, and also their water purification, that they were also, have they already coordinated that with y'all? Just as a side note, as somebody who works on one of the bases, one of the military establishments, I've noted that some of our buildings are now putting up solar panels to help lessen the load if something like this occurs again. So the federal buildings, the bases, are also trying to do their part as a good citizen and as a good customer.
Thanks so much for your call. Paul, I know there's been a lot of work with our partners at SAWS, so we'll go to you first.
Yeah, so you're exactly, Melissa, that we have spent a lot of time working with our partners over at SAWS. We have historically had connections with SAWS, obviously, but after the Uri event, we really have done a lot of work to better integrate our operations with SAWS. So our operations control center people now have direct contact with the SAWS operations folks. And so it will really facilitate us, if we get into these situations, to have much better communication and much better collaboration between our entities in working through those. Now, as far as planning for such a situation and thinking through it, we have done a lot of work there and have worked with SAWS to identify what are those most critical pumping stations, and getting those critical locations identified and put into our operations so that we can avoid shedding those particular facilities. SAWS has a lot of pumping stations all over the city, and it is kind of a physical impossibility to avoid all those facilities in a load shed event and still have enough circuits to meet the calls that we get from ERCOT on the reductions we need to make. But in working with the SAWS team, we have gotten to a really good situation with them, and I think it allows them to better manage their system through such an emergency, and as well as us. The other thing I'll mention is going forward, we're also working with SAWS to support them. They have some regulatory requirements now where they will be having to install backup generation at some number of their pumping stations. It's required by some of the new regulations in Senate Bill 3. And so our team is working closely with SAWS to support them in that effort and find ways that we can collaborate with them as they assess and design those systems as well. So what I can tell you is our connection with SAWS is greatly improved since the Uri event, and I think that will enable us to get through any future event with far less impact on our ability to serve electricity and water to our community.
Thanks, Paul. I know that's been a lot of great collaborative work between SAWS, the city, ourselves, the county, and the Emergency Operations Center. As a reminder, if you're on the phone, you can press *3 to get in the queue to ask our panel a question. We are going to try to get to as many questions as we can, but we also want to ask a poll question. So if you are on the phone, you can respond to this poll by pressing the corresponding number on your keypad. And if you're online, you can vote by selecting your response below the streaming player. So here's our poll question for tonight. Preparedness is incredibly important when facing inclement weather like a winter storm. Do you have an emergency plan for your family? You will press 1 for yes, I have an emergency plan. Press 2, you're currently working on an emergency plan, or press 3 if you do not have an emergency plan. Again, that's 1 for yes, I have an emergency plan. 2, you're currently working on an emergency plan, and press 3 if you do not have an emergency plan. We will share the results from that poll in just a few minutes, and we are about halfway through our program, and we're going to continue to take your calls. And I know we spent a lot of time with Paul, and he has a little bit more details to share. So Paul, please share with us the additional improvements your team has made.
Sure. Thank you, Melissa. So I think a good starting point when we talk about load shed, and as Rudy referred to it as controlled outages. So this is what ERCOT grid does. All the utilities in ERCOT, when there's not enough generation to meet the demand, we have to get the grid back in balance, and that is an absolute requirement, or the grid will be lost. And so this is the emergency operation for ERCOT to prevent a complete loss of the grid. So this is emergency operation for all of us across the community, so this is absolutely critical that we get this right. And CPS Energy, along with utilities across ERCOT, have taken a hard look at their systems and processes on how we manage load shed. The team at CPS Energy has made significant improvements, and we have increased the number of circuits we have available to supply for the load shed activity by about 35%. We have basically tested that scenario in our simulator for our distribution system and found that it would manage a URI size event and then some. So for all the testing that it's possible for us to do, we are comfortable that the changes we have made put us in a really good position. The other piece, for those of y'all who may have looked into some of the details, one of the issues we had during the year event was that our automated system just could not keep up with the demands that were being required to keep the grid up, that were the calls from ERCOT. And so we had to go to a manual operation to really support our load shed, which is possible and doable, and we have procedures for doing that, but it is certainly a strain on our systems operations personnel and is not as efficient as an automated program. So we have done significant reprogramming and improvements in our system that controls the load shed automation. And so it will, again, we have run that in a simulation, and it is running well and able to handle that size event. So I think those are kind of two of the core improvements we have made that are in place now and ready for this winter. If we were to have such an event, although we're all hoping and praying that we're not subjected to such an event again anytime soon. The other thing I'll mention is we are working to apply technology in the future to basically give us better flexibility and better control of our distribution circuits. So the first caller asked about, I think, or maybe the second caller, around the ability to not take an apartment complex off, but to take a a mall off. Well, with technology that we are hoping to deploy in the coming years, we would be able to keep the hospital on, but yet spread the load shed out amongst the other customers on those circuits. And that would thereby give us the opportunity to better pick out those most critical loads in our system while spreading that requirement to shed load out over far more customers, and would decrease the impact to any one customer significantly. I will mention that in our current system, our current program, the design and the target is that a controlled outage for any customer would be a 15-minute event, that a customer would be out for 15 minutes and then your power would be back on. I know that that is not the experience that y'all out there had, or myself, in this last event, but that is what we have built our system around for a future event if that were to happen.
Thanks, Paul. We do know that there are still a lot of questions out there, and we're going to get to more calls in a minute. But we also want to remind everybody that it is very important for us that we're able to get in touch with you in the case of an emergency. And part of the work that we've done on improving communications is testing additional features of our current tools we have to reach you in the event of an emergency. So we're asking everyone in our community to update your contact information and preferences for reaching you in the event we do have a weather emergency. If you are online, you can go into Manage My Account and update your emergency contact information, or you can dial by phone and call our friendly energy advisors and update your information with them at 210-353-2222. Again, that's 210-353-2222. We're going to quickly share with you the results from our poll. And we asked you if your family has an emergency plan, and 26% of you said you do have an emergency plan. 30% said you are working on an emergency plan, and 44% of you said you do not have an emergency plan, but there is still time, everyone, to do that. It's very important for families to have these plans, and we encourage you to work together to talk about what your plans are in the event of an emergency. If you do need some resources for that, TexasReady.gov website has a lot of great resources there, and that's something that we're going to continue to communicate on an ongoing basis, and we do encourage you all to share your plans with your family once you have those finalized. We're going to go next to our next phone question, and this one is from Martha Isa. Martha, you are live on the call.
Thank you for taking my call. One of the things that last year what happened was that the lack of communication that occurred when we had these blackouts. And I think that it's important that if y'all can access, like the city, when we had our COVID numbers were high or lower, and they used to text everybody. And if you can tap into that to better communicate with the whole city and to let them know of the issues and how and what's going on, so that there's not so much confusion and chaos and concerning when we have these blackouts. And in addition to that, we can plan, but we also need the city to help us plan too, because we need a facility where people can go, like the elderly or people that are in special equipment that need life-saving electricity, to be able to go to. And if they can tap into that communication where they can send it to everybody in the city, then I think that would be a great resource for all of us.
Thank you, Ms. Isa. And I'll take that question on myself, as my team's responsible for communications with customers. Just like Paul has referred to collaborative efforts with SAWS in the city on the communications side, we've done that as well. We've done a few tabletop exercises so far at the Emergency Operations Center. including with the Joint Information Center as well, so that we can be ready to communicate as one voice with the city, with the county, with any of our other partners to get the word out to all of our customers. A part of the enhancements as well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is testing the features that we have to communicate directly with customers, whether it be by email, phone, or text. So it's very important that we continue to encourage you all to update your emergency contact information. And you're going to hear a lot more in the coming months about our reliability and resilience communications plan that are going to give you really clear, direct call to actions on how to keep you and your family safe. We're also going to encourage everybody to do old-fashioned word of mouth as well. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family in the event that we are in another weather emergency. So please stay tuned and know that there is a lot of work being done so that we can all amplify this emergency messaging to our customers to keep you all safe.
Melissa,
we're
let
gonna
me
Sure.
let me just add a couple other things that I want to point out. One of the things the state legislature did this past legislative session is give utilities really access to the state's emergency alert system, so that in the case of an energy emergency, we can also utilize their text dot road signage, and there are other elements of the state's emergency plan that we now have access to be able to get word out, broadly across the state of Texas. If we find ourselves in a similar situation, the city's got their own system. We're, as Melissa said, we're coordinating to be able to utilize that system when the need arises, to be able to reach as many people as we possibly can. So I think the key there is, last event, it was really CPS Energy telling you what we could tell you that we did know, and more importantly, telling you what we didn't know, which we know was frustrating this last go round. And I think our plan is, as we move forward, to speak with one voice, to really make it actionable on what you can do in response to the situation. And one example of an immediate improvement we made is when you go to our outage map on our website, you will now see every cooling and warming center that the city of San Antonio makes available to its citizens during extreme temperatures during the year. That's an immediate improvement. If you find yourself out and you go to our website, you can find the nearest center that you can go to get some help from our community partners. So we're going to continue to really push ourselves to find every way possible to make sure that there's no customer out there that we don't get to. And we'll keep trying. We're going to keep adding opportunities to communicate to our systems and do the best we can to try to speak clearly and to let you know what you need to know to keep yourselves and your families safe.
Thanks, Rudy. And we're going to go to an online question. We have Antonio Easter, who is online and watching, and he asks whether it's a good idea to purchase a generator to prepare for winter. And we have talked a little bit about safety, and there are safety concerns, of course, that we have there. And Paul, I'll go to you first, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, so I think that is a consideration that a lot of our customers are making. A number of my friends have asked me about that option. I think that it is an investment you can make, particularly if you may have particular needs, maybe medical devices or something that may put you at additional risk, and you need more certainty around that. What I can tell you from a CPS standpoint is that we have made significant improvements and have prepared for such an event as Uri. But the weather and weather events in the future are always difficult to predict. But we believe that we are well prepared for such an event. So I think, the consideration of getting a generator, I think, is a personal one based on your needs that you may have and the level of protection you think you and your family may need. But I would kind of emphasize the point made earlier there is preparations that we all should be doing, each and every one of us. Just like CPS is spending a lot of money, a lot of resources to prepare ourselves for such an event, there are things that each and every one of our customers and people in our community should be doing personally as well, to make sure that you've thought through and taken care of those risks that you may have in your household. And the Texas Ready website is a great resource for finding information on things you can do to prepare your home and your family as well.
Yeah, I'll give another plug for that website. It's texasready.gov. And we'll go to another live question, and it is from Sharon Gaskell. Sharon, you are live on the call.
Okay, I have read in the paper that we are going to have to pay for the last storm. The customers are going to have to pay. And if this is true, can you explain to me why we should have to pay when we didn't do anything wrong?
Thank you, Ms. Gaskell, for that question. Rudy, you want to start with you? Yes, ma'am. Great question. And you know, as Frank mentioned, CPS Energy immediately, as we were watching what was going on last winter storm, we recognized that the gas prices really kind of started creeping up at, the closer we got to that particular week, and really skyrocketed to the point where they were up 16,000%, during the worst of it. And we immediately started taking action to look at our contracts, to figure out what our options were, to try to fight what we believed were completely unconscionable prices that the utility industry saw. Every utility that utilizes gas, that serves customers as a natural gas utility, saw astronomical financial impact result of Winter Storm. Ours was a little over $1 billion. We've paid up to now, a little over about $450 million that we believe were, we've been working with our suppliers, trying to, find ways to, to find settlements and to do things to pay what we believe are reasonable charges. But a lot of suppliers didn't do the right thing. They didn't recognize and act with some level of restraint towards the amount of prices that they were charging the market, when the governor and the president both had declared a disaster across the state and across certain parts of the country. And so CPS Energy has taken on that fight. We're going to continue to push. We believe that it is a legal argument that is worth making. We have nowhere else to go but our customers to pay for expenses associated with providing electric and gas service to our community. So it is incumbent upon us to ensure that we don't pay one penny more than we believe is reasonable. We have taken this argument to the state legislature, asking for the state legislature to do what we believe is appropriate by setting policy on these issues, to not allow gas suppliers to act in this way with this behavior. So ma'am, I can tell you that we're doing everything we can do to ensure that our customers don't have to pay what we believe are completely unreasonable costs. And for those that we do end up paying, our goal is to try to spread that out over a time period that allows us to pay for this in a reasonable manner and not overburden our customers beyond what we think they can pay reasonably on a monthly basis. So we are doing everything we can to ensure our customers don't have to pay costs that we believe just are not appropriate. And we're going to continue that fight. We're going to continue that fight on behalf of our community and really on behalf of customers, not only in San Antonio, but across the state of Texas, who have found themselves paying bills that we believe just are not fair, are not appropriate, and are not right. Thanks, Rudy. And Frank, I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in on that question as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was well said. one way or the other, there's two pieces to this. We burned a lot of gas. As Rudy just noted, if there are other utilities out there that were not a gas supplier, then they did not supply that gas to their customers to keep them warm, help them do things that they needed to do to, care for their families. But those same utilities have different utilities that serve natural gas up to that community. So everybody across the state was impacted, and everybody is dealing and adjusting with it in a different way. So we did consume a lot of gas, and we are paying something for the gas that we consumed. But as Rudy said, we are deeply engaged in that fight, and it's voices like yours that help give us, remind us why it's critical that we continue to push on our efforts to protect our customers from those prices that we were charged during that price gouging that occurred during the declared emergency of Winter Storm Uri, as well as future price shocks in the ways that I described a little while ago. I do want to say one really quick thing about the prior question. Generation, I just talked to you about the preparations that we're making to make sure that our generation plants are ready to go for this winter. And we have a high degree of confidence that we have made big strides to be sure that we're not 85%, but we're as close to 100% as we can be. I've told you about how we're going to supply gas to our community. And the thing that I do want to highlight for you, this is back to the question about should I get a generator or not? We're doing everything that we can to be sure that we're ready for the winter. And in the event that a similar event happens, Paul described how we're going to perform from a load shed standpoint to keep our customers as supplied with power as we possibly can. We are, of course, tied to the ERCOT grid. And the really critical thing to know is that part of how we perform is going to have something to do with how others perform too. So there are rules that are coming down the way to make sure that everybody has to hold their generation units to a certain standard, but they haven't been there yet. And we're hopeful that people are taking the responsible actions that are necessary, both the power generation units in the state, but also the natural gas facilities to make sure that there's gas in the pipes to get to our community. With those things in mind, it's just we have to be thoughtful about the full scope of the state that we live in, and we're taking care of the things that we can control, and we're thoughtful about the things that lending our voices to the state to try and make sure that we're all in it together and making strides towards a solution that works for the whole state.
Thanks, Frank. We have time for another live caller. We're going to go to Loretta Whitehead. Miss Whitehead, you are live on the call. Miss Whitehead?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
I had wanted to ask, since last year we had 3.5 days without electricity in our house. We are senior citizens. Is there some kind of places set aside where we could move out of our house and go somewhere to stay warm? It was incredibly, unbelievably. We can't even remember how terribly cold it was.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Whitehead, for that question, and we're extremely sorry that you had to experience that. Rudy, I'm going to turn to you for response.
Sure. So, if you're a senior citizen, and ma'am, I am sorry. I know it was a horrible experience, and we have apologized to our community, every time we have this conversation, and we'll continue to do so. There are programs. We do have a senior citizen program at CPS Energy. If you call 210-353-2222, our energy advisors not only can ensure that you're on our available senior citizen discount, but if you have critical care equipment, oxygen tanks, a medical situation that we need to be aware of, we can designate that in our system, and in situations like that, call you to make sure that we get you to a safe location, so that you can be somewhere where you have warmth and have the resources you need to be comfortable and protected. So I would encourage you. I'll actually ask our folks to make sure that we take your contact information, which I know you had to give us to get on to ask your question, and we will reach out to you in the morning, ma'am, and we will make sure that we make our assistance programs available to you. But I would tell all the customers that are paying attention tonight, reach out to us. If you're behind on your bill, call 353-2222. If you are not sure if you're income limited and you're not sure if you qualify for our assistance programs, give us a call. There are so many opportunities we have to provide assistance, not just on energy assistance, but also, housing assistance that's available, medication assistance that's available, food assistance that's available. We're connected to hundreds of partners across the community who all have different ways that we assist our community and make it real easy on you to get the assistance that you need. Again, as we move forward, nobody has to be worried about their electric bill right now. Give us a call and we will do everything we can to help find the resources that you need as we go into the next winter season.
Thanks, Rudy, and Ms. Bonnie, too. This is also part of our collaborative work with our partners at the city and the county to make sure that in the event that we are in the situation again, we have information about warming centers that we can share. And I know our partners at the S&E County are both very focused on that. We do have time for one last question. So we're going to go to Ms. Bonnie Tolgren. Ms. Tolgren, you are live on the line.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I have two questions, actually. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
We're here.
Okay. How many new homes have been added to the grid since we had the outages in 2021?
You can ask your second question, too, and we'll try to get to both of them in one answer.
Super. Since the last conversation about the shut-ins and the elderly, since you have control of shutting down portions of the grid in order to conserve energy, is it possible that you could contact us with a time and approximately how long so we can gather the sick and the elderly in our neighborhood?
Thank you for those questions. Rudy, I see you ready to go.
Yes. A couple of things that I want to touch on. Our community is growing, just in terms of customers, a little over 2%, about 2.7% a year. We've seen a lot of growth in San Antonio. We're only growing, in terms of the amount of energy they use by about 1% a year. Newer homes are more efficient. We continue to invest in energy efficiency programs of our existing homes. So, we're not growing as much in the energy being used as we are the sheer meters that we're connecting on an annual basis. And we have plenty of energy, from the generation that both we generate on our own, the generation we buy from the market, our conservation programs. We feel good that we're in a pretty good, position to continue to serve a growing community like San Antonio. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the United States right now in terms of residential customers. So if your concern is that we're growing faster than what we can, what we can afford to serve, we're in good shape. Frank and his team do a great job of looking at those forecasts of growth and planning for that growth in terms of our overall supply. Paul's team does a great job of getting folks connected as they're coming into our system. So we're in a high growth community, which means we always have to be paying attention to those numbers and making sure that we're doing what we need to do to be responsive. There's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we can do to continue to communicate when there's a load shed event coming. And one of the things I've met personally with Maria Villa Gomez, who is on our city manager, Eric Walsh's staff. And we're talking about how can we, really do some outreach ahead of a winter event with those most vulnerable in our community to make sure that, just in case they're going to get impacted by the potential for a load shed event, we're moving them ahead of schedule to a location where they can be safe and secure. We've got some work to do there, but we've had some meetings. We're continuing to work on a plan on what makes the most sense to get ahead of these events before they're on top of us. A lot of it depends on how much we got to be paying attention to the conditions. We got to be paying attention what's going on at ERCOT and across the state of Texas, and really working with our city to figure out what those triggers look like to say, out of an abundance of caution, if we're expecting the potential to have to shed load in the manner we did in February, we're going to start moving folks to centers ahead of that. So that is some work that we're doing in our planning with the city. Again, I will admit we have some work to do there, but that's why it's so important for our customers to let us know they're on life-sustaining equipment, to let us know they might need some help, so we can designate that in our system and know who to contact when those times come, so that we can get ahead of things. But great question. Again, a great suggestion of things that we can do to be more proactive. And ma'am, I can promise you that we are certainly working on it.
Thank you. Well, we are coming to the end of our live event, and we do want you to know if we did not get to your question this evening, please leave a voicemail after the event by staying on the call when we end, and you'll be transferred into our private voicemail system. We will be checking those voicemails, and we will be responding back to you. You can also email us at feedback@cpsenergy.com. And as a reminder, if you need billing or customer assistance, please call 210-353-2222. You can also join us at our next Utility Assistance Fair, and that one is scheduled for Tuesday, November 16th at Southside High School. There's also an event this weekend hosted by the Bexar County delegation representatives on Saturday from 10 to 2 at the YMCA at Mission San Jose. We have connected our customers with more than $41 million in bill assistance, and we have helped so many more with payment plans, and we will be out there in person this weekend to help you, and on the 16th. Before we leave, I'm going to turn it over to Rudy for some closing thoughts. Rudy?
Well, thank you, Melissa. Great job tonight emceeing our event this evening. I want to thank my colleagues, Paul Barham, Frank Almaraz, for their expertise. Frank and Paul are two of the smartest leaders I've ever worked with, and the community should feel good about having leaders like Paul and Frank at the helm to do the work that we need to do to be prepared this winter. For those of you who've stuck with us throughout this event, I just want to tell you, CPS Energy has done the work that we need to do to weatherize the plants to ensure that they're as ready as they can be come this winter season, to do the maintenance that we've got to do on an annual basis early, so that come February and March, our power generation system is ready to go. We have done the work that we've needed to do to look at our load shed program, to increase capacity so that if we're experiencing an event like we experienced in February, we can give customers the certainty of getting 15 minutes of power on, 15 minutes of power off while we try to get through the event as quickly as we can. And we have focused on the communication improvements that we need to make to ensure our community is better coordinated, that we're coordinated with our emergency response personnel, that we're in line with our sister utility SAWS, and working closely with our owner, the city of San Antonio, and doing the things that we're expected to do to communicate with our community. So from the perspective of, have we implemented the things that we learned from the last winter storm for this winter season? The answer is absolutely yes. We're staying focused on what we can control, and we're doing the best we can to pay attention to what we don't control that's going on around the rest of the state. We have to rely on natural gas supply to get to us, to run through our power plants, to put in our gas system. We're hoping that our gas suppliers are there for us when we need them this winter season. We're hoping that the generators across the state of Texas that we have to rely on across the system to ensure a stable system are doing the same things that we're doing. But I just want to reassure our community that CPS Energy and our 3,000 employees are doing everything we can do to be ready to go this winter season, and take the feedback that you've given, the things that we've heard from you, the listening that we've done over the last 9 months, and put them into action. I believe that we're doing the things we need to do to make you proud this winter season, and we're going to be ready to go and hope that all the actions taken collectively by our industry are enough to be able to get us through a winter season. We hope you don't think about us once this winter season, that your power and your natural gas are there, and that you can feel good about the fact that we did our job to respond and to be prepared this winter season. So we appreciate your patience over the last 9 months as we've been working through these opportunities. We just thank you for being customers and for continuing to believe in CPS Energy and the job that we're doing for our community. So thank you for being with us tonight, and you have a good evening.